and welcome. I'm Asuma Kataoka and you are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. US President Donald Trump will meet officials from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia and Pakistan to discuss the Gaza crisis amid Israel's escalating assault. While White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt has confirmed, local media also reported that Trump will also present a proposal for post-war governance in Gaza. Russia's defense ministry has said that its forces have destroyed 150 Ukrainian drones over Moscow, Crimea, and western regions within 24 hours. While Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin has confirmed 33 were downed near the capital, disrupting flights at Sheremetyevo Airport. Copenhagen has and Oslo airports, the busiest in the Nordic region, have now reopened after hours-long shutdowns caused by large drones that stranded passengers. Danish police has said that the drones were seen near Copenhagen Airport for 4 hours and Oslo Airport for 3 hours, but no suspects have been identified yet. Hong Kong has raised its typhoon signal to the third highest as Super Typhoon Odesa, the world's most powerful storm of this year. It has forced the shutdown of schools, businesses, and disrupted 700 flights so far, while southern Chinese cities and Taiwan have activated evacuations and shelters in preparation. Guinea's new constitution appears that it is set to pass with 90.6% support from more than 4.8 million votes casted, potentially allowing coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya to run for president. Turnout exceeded 70% in the referendum, marking a critical shift since Doumbouya seized power in 2021 in the resource-rich nation. The foreign ministers of the US, South Korea, and Japan have all expressed concerns over destabilizing activities around the Taiwan Strait and rejected unlawful maritime claims in the South China Sea. China's foreign ministry slammed the remarks as irresponsible, while Taiwan's foreign ministry has welcomed the support. NVIDIA will invest up to $100 billion in OpenAI through non-voting shares and supply of data center chips, with an initial $10 billion commitment and plans to deploy at least 10 gigawatts of computing power by 2026. The deal, which boosted NVIDIA shares by 4.4% to a record high, but raises potential antitrust scrutiny amid the global AI race. Sri Lanka's Energy Minister Kumaya Jayakodi has said that the country has no immediate plans to import LNG from India because of lack of storage and infrastructure, and it will take at least 3 years to complete them. He has added that while India announced LNG supplies last year, however, no contracts have been finalized and discussion points remain. After causing widespread damage in Taiwan and Philippines, Super Typhoon Odesa is now headed to the southern coast of China, where it is expected to make landfall as one of the most destructive typhoons in recorded history. The powerful storm has prompted authorities in mainland China to order businesses and schools to shut down in at least 10 cities across the nation's south, affecting tens of millions of people. The super typhoon was generating maximum sustained winds of 220 kilometers per hour near its center while moving west across the South China Sea, according to Hong Kong's weather service. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Andrew KP Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, could this response to Odesa influence or maybe public trust ahead of future elections or political decisions in these affected countries?
Sorry, are you asking about a typhoon or are you asking about something else? Can you repeat the question?
I'm talking about the typhoon. How will it be managed, and will it have any effect on trust for future elections or political decisions in these affected countries?
Well, I mean, of course, Hong Kong is now extremely well prepared. And then we got the warning of the approaching typhoon through the observatory department using AI, the latest technology. So they know that a typhoon was approaching. And then the whole government has been mobilized. The Hong Kong's 7.8 million citizens have been regularly given information, and then the whole city is now fully prepared for it, and all sorts of precautions are being taken. Various departments are being mobilized, and the high-level steering committee already set up 2 days ago, mobilizing all resources, including the security, police, and relief workers, and then of course all the commercial establishments are also prepared for this, as well as the educational establishments. So this time around, we know that that's the biggest typhoon ever going to hit Hong Kong. The difference is that the previous typhoons, they usually make landfall in nearby territories like Luzon in the South China Sea and other countries before hitting Hong Kong. But this time around, the typhoon is heading straight towards Hong Kong with a gathering force. And according to the latest data, is unlike any other typhoon during the past several decades. So we are fully prepared for this. But I think that because Hong Kong is a highly congested city, and so various other precautions which were not necessary in other cities are also being implemented. So we're looking to see what's going to happen. And I think that this is about 15 minutes to 6 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm in Hong Kong, in the south of Hong Kong, along the quite near the Repulse Bay area. It's still relatively quiet outside, and the typhoon is expected to hit Hong Kong maybe midnight this evening, about 6 hours from now, where it's reach the highest intensity, and thereafter maybe it would take a couple more hours for the typhoon to maybe exert its biggest impact on Hong Kong before hitting Macau and landing in the nearby coast in the Greater Bay Area.
And Andrew, how might this affect China's regional economic influence and global trade stability by this disruption made by this typhoon?
Well, I don't think that it's going to affect anything at all. I mean, it is not a nuclear bomb, okay? It is just a typhoon, even though it's a fiercest typhoon. And I think that all the cities around the region, they are all experiencing typhoon all the time. This is not the first typhoon in Hong Kong. I mean, this is about the 5th or the 6th. So we regularly face typhoons during the summer. But then, of course, this is the biggest typhoon ever, and then we are prepared for it. And as for China also experienced a lot of typhoons along the coast. I don't think it's got any impact at all. Apart from typhoon, there were also in China all sorts of natural disasters. And then I think that the Chinese government is well prepared for this, including earthquakes recently, as far from region as in the northern provinces like Tibet and so on. I think that the Chinese government is also fully organized to meet these emergencies.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us and sharing that insight. Now we move on. Hong Kong has now shut schools and cancelled flights as Super Typhoon Ragasa neared the financial center with a force that officials have warned would be among the most destructive in the city's recent history. The Hong Kong Observatory has issued its third highest typhoon warning, T8, saying that Ragasa has an extensive circulation with fierce winds. Hong Kong's number 2 officials, Eric Chan, previously said Ragasa would pose a serious threat comparable to the super typhoons of 2017 and 18, which caused hundreds of millions in property damage. While Hong Kong's airport remains open, authorities have warned of significant disruption to flight operations. Meanwhile, on mainland China, Shenzhen earlier ordered the evacuation of 400,000 people. Emergency management authorities in the Chinese tech hub have urged locals to not go out casually. Other cities in the southern province of Guangdong that are implementing the measures include Chaozhou, Zhuhai, Dongguan, and Foshan. Let's listen into what the people affected by the typhoon in Hong Kong have said.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we planned a 3-week stay in Japan. Now we have to stay 1 week in Hong Kong, which also is exciting, but now we have to figure out how to cancel our hotel reservation in Japan, and we had to book a new hotel here, which also cost us some money. So yeah, we're kind of really disappointed.
就係驚漲潮咯，我所以趕翻嚟。頭先嗰個嘢咧，我諗住補啲外牆油咧係防水嘅，咁就由個牆邊咧有啲裂位咧就希望咧修補咗佢咧，就到時啲水咧就唔會直接衝到入屋咯。同埋個損耗咧都好犀利咯，即係佢個威力咧估唔到啊！
損失咗幾錢啊？之前有冇咗去
幾萬蚊啦，因為你要整個間屋啊，買晒啲家私啊咁樣。
驚㗎，水漲過頭啊，仲漲過新竹啊，啲水啊！如果一嚟好犀利㗎啦，過頭冚㗎，哎呀！呢後邊又嚟，呢前邊又嚟，呢度放船仔都得啊，一條雞啊！真係驚到死啊！我成晚都唔好瞓覺啊，成晚坐喺度睇啊。
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky holds talks with U.S. President Donald Trump's Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg in New York on the eve of the UN summit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has now arrived in New York to participate in the general debate of the United Nations General Assembly. President Zelensky will also hold bilateral meetings with world leaders. Earlier, President Zelensky urged the leaders gathering for the United Nations General Assembly in New York to place real powerful pressure on Russia to end the war. This comes as there are reports of intense Russian strikes on Zaporizhia and the Donetsk, Dnipro, Sumy, Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Kherson regions. Meanwhile, the White House has confirmed that President Trump will be meeting with President Zelensky as well. The Security Council is also expected to hold a meeting in the war in Ukraine as the Ukrainian president delivers speech at the UNGA on Wednesday. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Dr. Vipul Saxena. He's a defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, what might be the strategic objectives for Ukraine in this high-level engagement?
See, as far as the efforts with Donald Trump was making to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine, I think he has already lost interest, and I think he lost patience also, which is quite clear from his various statement which has come in last 1 month or so. But on the other hand, he also has now taken quite a strong stand, or rather open stand, that America will soon be supplying arms and ammunition to Ukraine to face Russian assaults. So I think America is no more a neutral party which can bring peace to. I'm sure all these talks and discussion and meeting which are going to take place between American administration and also Donald Trump will be what are the needs of Ukraine, and which all weapons can be supplied to the Ukraine to defend its territory, especially drone and various American weapons. And another part is that there have been news in last 1 month that many times Russian aircrafts have violated various NATO nations' airspace like Poland and all. So I think that can be another area of concern for Donald Trump to discuss with Zelensky.
And Doctor, how could Zelensky's call for real powerful pressure on Russia's influence discussion on Russia influence discussions at the UN Security Council?
See, I think somewhere he would try to, put a pressure or take support from UNSC and other agencies to put pressure on IMF to get funding or absorb the assets which have been confiscated or frozen by IMF of Russia because of this war. I think that's another attempt probably Zelensky would like to take it, and in that he can be hopeful of American full support.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Saxena, for joining us and sharing that insight as a defense expert. Now we move on to our next news. A senior U.S. lawmaker visiting China has raised concerns about the growing risk of military misunderstandings between the two nations amid rapid advances in defense technology. Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House of Armed Services Committee, has emphasized the need for better communication and basic deconfliction between U.S. and Chinese forces to avoid dangerous encounters at sea and as well as in the air. Let's listen into what he has said.
China understands that now they are such a large military, they need to have more conversations with the other large militaries in the world for basic deconfliction. I mean, we've seen this, with our ships, our planes, their ships, their planes coming entirely too close to one another. We need to have a better conversation about deconflicting those things. And also, the risk of a misunderstanding of capabilities on one side or the other is great. And I think there needs to be communication about that.
Now for this discussion, we go back to Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for staying with us. Now, what are the implications of rising military tensions between U.S. and China as highlighted by Adam Smith?
The two superpowers are now in a very intense phase of rivalry and competition. And because there is a bipartisan consensus in the United States that China is representing an existential threat to American leadership and dominance in the world. And so this, they're pushing back against China on all fronts, ideologically, technologically, economically, and trade and tariffs, and also diplomatically and geopolitically. Everything, including the military. And as China is now showcasing its military hardware in the recent Beijing parade, highlighting the latest sixth generation fighter jets and hypersonic intercontinental missiles with multi-navigable warheads that can circumnavigate the group. And also high precision aircraft killer missiles and so on, and which can threaten American assets in the Asia Pacific. So I think that the United States is beginning to feel there is a high time to reach some sort of understanding, to avoid any kind of miscalculations on either side that could escalate into an unwanted consequences or unforeseen and controllable consequences on both sides.
And Andrew, how do you think, how effective could this improved communication measures be in preventing such conflict?
Well, the guardrails are necessary from military to military, and in fact, the guardrails were already established months ago by developing a direct dialogue with the military highest military commanders on either side. But it's not just the military, because the military maneuvers are all dictated by the highest level, the leaders in both countries, and also is dictated by a deep-seated suspicion and misunderstanding between the peoples on either side. I think the biggest misunderstanding in the United States, and for that matter, a large part of the world, is somehow Beijing militarily, economically, and so on, and change the world order. Well, this is far from the case because China has been benefiting hugely from the American-led rule-based order since the end of the Second World War. It's just that as China grows, necessarily, I mean, as country grows, its influence increases, and that is representing a threat. And of course, the United States sees that instead of producing T-shirts and Nike shoes, China is now eating Americans' lunch in high technology. Well, this is understandable as China is now transiting towards a high manufacturing, quality manufacturing, high-tech country. And then necessarily there will be confrontations. But I think that it's necessary for the people on both sides to understand each other. I think there's more room for Chinese policymakers and Chinese people to understand the American national psyche, their treasure of their values and so on, and also the internal politics in the United States. And likewise, it would pay huge dividends for American people and their politicians to see what China it really is, and to walk away from this misguided mantra that somehow the Chinese Communist Party is illegitimate. And if you look at the Harvard Kennedy School recent studies, and recent studies based in New York-based Edelman Trust Barometer, they all highlight the fact that the reality that the Chinese government is the best trusted government by its people compared with many countries around the world, including many democracies, because they have delivered what counts. Democracy, elections is only a process. At the end of the day, it's the outcome. The outcome is the livelihoods of the people, regardless of the ideology. To what extent the people have benefited. And then on that count, the Chinese Communist Party governance in recent years has very little comparison, according to as I said, Harvard Kennedy School Studies, New York-based Edelman Trust Barometer, and also the Paris-based Ipsos Center, IPSOS. They all confirm that the Chinese people's government in recent years has been very successful in winning the trust of their people, and that's legitimacy. So I think that it needs the people on both sides to understand each other better, and in that context, the visit of the American lawmakers is very timely.
Right. Andrew, thank you very much for always joining us and sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next news. China has expressed strong opposition to recent comments made by the United States, Japan, and South Korea concerning Taiwan and maritime issues surrounding it, calling them irresponsible and a violation of China's internal affairs. Let us hear what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Goh Jiakun has stated.
日韩三国在台湾和涉海问题上说三道四，干涉中国内政，污蔑抹黑中国，中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对。台湾是中国领土不可分割的一部分，台湾问题纯属中国内政，不容任何外来干涉。有关国家应该恪守一个中国原则，停止以任何形式纵容台独分裂活动，不得向台独分裂势力发出错误信号。
This comes after the joint statement from the three countries voiced concerns over rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait and criticized unlawful maritime claims in the South China Sea. While China was not explicitly named, Beijing swiftly condemned the remarks and warned against supporting Taiwanese independence. Taiwan, meanwhile, welcomed the support, vying to cooperate with democratic partners to maintain regional stability. Tensions continue to mount over sovereignty, military activity, and influence in the Indo-Pacific. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, how does this joint statement by US, Japan, and South Korea reflect its stance on Taiwan, and what impact might this have on diplomatic relations within Indo-Pacific region?
This remark is important because recent new president of the Lee Jae-myung government joined this framework. because since new South Korea's president won in, new President Lee Jae-myung carefully avoid to mention about Taiwan in his statement. So that's why even if there are some joint exercises between U.S., Japan, and South Korea, the two governments, U.S. government and the Japanese government, worry about the attitude of the new government of South Korea. But this time, the three countries gathered and published a joint statement and mentioned about Taiwan. That is clearly indicated that the South Korea is maintaining their presence in this framework. And when China invade Taiwan, under such kind of situation, the three countries collaborate each other. So that's why this is important remark. Because of this trilateral cooperation will be maintained and to be powerful to deter China's invasion to Taiwan.
And how could Taiwan's response to the support from these three democratic partners influence its relations with China?
Directly, this trilateral cooperation do not affect the situation of Taiwan. But when we think about China is ally of the North Korea, in this case, if North Korea raises tension just before the China's invasion to Taiwan, U.S. military forces and Japan's defense forces need to divide their force to two fronts. That's why the South Korea's cooperation to deter the North Korea is very important for the U.S. and Japan to relocate their military forces to support Taiwan. So in this case, the situation in the Korean Peninsula and the situation in Taiwan is indeed integrated as one theater, Japanese start to think. So that's why this trilateral cooperation, the US, Japan, the South Korea, which focusing on Korean Peninsula, is affecting the situation in Taiwan.
Right. With that, thank you very much, Dr. Satoru Nagao, for joining us and sharing your insight. Now we move on to Asia. Indonesia and the European Union have signed a long-awaited trade agreement, marking the culmination of nearly a decade of negotiations. The Indonesia-European Union Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement was finalized in Bali by EU Trade Commissioner Markus Sefcovic and Indonesian Minister of Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto. This pact opens investment opportunities in key sectors such as electric vehicles, electronics, and pharmaceuticals. Let's listen into what both leaders have said.
Agreement, the EU and Indonesia are sending a powerful message to the world that we stand united in our commitment to open, rules-based and mutually beneficial international trade.
It's important to underscore that this agreement eliminates over 98% of tariffs, removing nearly all barriers to trade and opening new pathways for investment.
This is a 10-year journey that has brought up to the milestone that reflect our shared and enduring commitment to an open, fair, sustainable economic partnership.
This is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world.